people who have devoted their lives to monastic services, leave them alone. That means monks and priests. Now, yes, you can come and give me enough examples that this didn't happen. I can give you enough examples where the Christians did exactly the same, the other way around. Okay? But that does not mean that that's what Islam says. I just read out what Islam says. Allah tells us that this is what you should not do. You should not kill women, you should not kill children, you should not kill the elderly. You should actually, in a war, fight with the enemy who is your enemy as a soldier, and not anybody else who is not a soldier, anybody else who has nothing to do with the war. Next to this one, we should not even burn plants or trees. That goes against the natural laws of Allah. We should not destroy villages, which is happening every day. Okay, nowadays in so-called wars or civil wars. Okay? So, that's what Islam says. And I'm not talking about what certain Muslims did in the past. And even there I can give you historic evidence. For example, we all know Saladin, right? Salahuddin al-Ayyubi in Arabic. Saladin. And let me just use the English term Saladin, because you know, if somebody hears or whatever, I don't know if you have a Greek in between, but then I have comments on my YouTube channel every time like, oh, this guy is not a Greek. You see, listen to his Arabic. So when you know good Arabic, you cannot be Greek, right? So, Salahuddin al-Ayyubi, that's the Arabic pronunciation of his name. Saladin in English. During the Crusades, when he defeated the Franks, he honored the defeated Frankish army and supplied them with food. And during the Third Crusade, when Saladin's enemy, King Richard, fell sick, Saladin sent him a gift of fruits and horses. On the other hand, okay, we must also admit that Richard was also, for a European of that time, for a crusader, we must admit, he was actually also quite gentle and kind towards the Muslims in general. But in comparison to what Saladin did and the way that he has gone into history, and we all know, there's no comparison, I think, at all. We all know that. And this is Western literature. Misconception number 3. Women have no rights. You know, tell my wife this. All right? It's not a lot I have to say on this one. Tell my wife this. You know, my wife is from South America, from Suriname. And she accepted Islam 15 to 16 years ago after we met. And the funny way is, not that I met her Muslim, right? But what happened, as people say, of course, you know, but in the contrary, she had already a friend, a Moroccan friend. She grew up in Amsterdam in Holland, and she had a Moroccan friend, and she kept asking her, this hijab, the scarf that you're wearing, I love it, it's beautiful. I would also love to wear it. And then we met. And then I tell her basically, listen, you know, I like you very much, but you know, I'm a Muslim, you know. Oh, she said, great. I said, what? So what? That's great? Yeah, she said, yeah, because I'm very interested. Oh, I said, you're interested in Islam, I'm interested in you, that's great, let's come together. So, I have 7 children now, you know. So, women have no rights, okay? Tell it to my wife, it's all right. You know, I mean, I think we all agree nowadays, you know, we don't have to go into this one. Maybe we're going to take this into the Q&A session now. Misconception number 2, Islam was spread by the sword. Historically, absolute nonsense. All right? Islam was spread to Asia through trades, through traders to trade. You can't see it? You can't see it? Yeah. So, we know that if you look at the history of Southeast Asia, if you look at the history of Central Asia, you know, if you look at the history of the Muslims in America and of the Christians in America, then I think we will clearly see what was spread with a sword. Okay? Made my point, I think, right? Let's move on. Misconception number 1, the last one, last but not least, the most important one. All Muslims are terrorists, right? Yes, of course, of course. You know, I don't know if how it is at this moment here, but we're all terrorists, right? We're talking about terrorism. We all love the terrorists. And you know what? I cannot blame you for believing that. I cannot blame you. Honestly, I can't blame you. I told you. Actually, I didn't tell you the story how I became Muslim. You know, when I met these 2 Lebanese brothers who came from Beirut, they came over to Germany that time, and because of the invasion of the Israelis of Beirut that time, they had to close all the Lebanese had to close all the foreign schools down. So every foreigner who was in the country left the country, Germans, Americans, British. They left the country that time in the 80s. So these 2 Lebanese brothers were sent by their father because they were attending German school. They came to Germany, and I was together with one of the two in the same class. And then I went to visit. We were very often together, and I went to visit him once at his place. And then he was called by his brother. His brother was older, and we were sitting together watching some TV. I don't remember what we were doing. And then he was called. He said, "Come here, Mulham, it's time for Salah." I said, "What?" "It's time for Salah." I said, "What's that? What you guys doing?" He said, "We pray." I said, "What? You're praying? What's that, man?" He said, "Yeah, we're Muslims." "Whoa, what?" I said, "I thought you were good guys." So now, how can I blame you? How can I blame anybody for thinking? I should never, one thing I'm talking to myself sometimes really saying, we should never forget the way we were. I should never forget the way I thought 22 years ago. My wife should never forget the way she thought 15 to 16 years ago. We should never forget this. It's easy to blame and point fingers to other people, because of their misconceptions and their misjudgment maybe. But we should never forget that if we look back to the way we were not very different. And it's a very Greek and even nationalistic Greek that time, that's why it was a struggle for me for 3 years to accept Islam. Because there was no connection between Islam and Greece. But, okay. Actually, I think I should stop here now with that one, because I think there's a lot to discuss, and I'm sure that you might have quite some questions. And within the questions, we can, of course, go on with a lot more that I have here, inshallah. Now, yes, please. Let's make a start. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Now.
Just raise your hand if you want to have a question.
Yes, please, sir.
Just a fiddly little question. You said at the start you were born in Greece, but you're not a Greek, you're a Muslim.
Go on, yeah.
Say you filled in a passport application. You would come to nationality and religion. You would not put Greek as your nationality and Muslim as your religion.
Okay. You see, we have a misconception already today here. I did not say I'm not. No. Okay. First of all, yes, with regards to nationality, my ethnic background is Greek. But my nationality is German. Because I grew up in Germany, I have a German passport. I have a German education, I grew up in Germany, so I do have also a Greek passport, but I do not travel as a Greek, I travel as a German, simply because it makes life easier. Okay? Okay, no problem at all. No problem at all. So, with regards to nationality, yes, no doubt about it. I have a nationality. I have two nationalities even, right? And my ethnic background is I'm Greek, yes, but I grew up in Germany, have a German education, have a German passport as well. Okay? And when I fill in application, I do fill in applications as German, most of the times. Okay? When it suits better, then I do it as a Greek, but it doesn't. If you want to go to Australia nowadays as a Greek, it's a very, very bad choice because they wouldn't give you a visa. Whereas as a German, you don't need a visa.
Right.
So for that reason. Now, with regards to a religion, nobody nowadays asks you for religion except in Greece. In Europe, and that's a big problem in Greece, for example, with the European Union. They say the European Union law actually does not allow you to ask for religion nowadays in Europe. But the Greeks still do that, and that's what the big fight is. The ID cards, the Greek ID cards, for example, before, they used to have religion on it. And they would clearly do it on purpose because we do have a Muslim minority in Greece, and they would discriminate against people who are not Greek Orthodox. But I am born as a Greek Orthodox. I accepted Islam 22 years ago. So my papers still state in Greece that I'm Greek Orthodox. And they would never change it for me. Never, even if I wanted to. Okay?
It's a long time since I filled a passport form.
Well, they don't do it anymore. They don't ask you for it, really not. Yeah, yes, bro.
Could you explain the most toughest bit? You said between the 3 years you were going through struggling to become Muslim and stuff. What was the hardest thing growing up as a non-Muslim trying to become Muslim?
Well, I was living at my parents' place. Okay, and that was one of the hardest things actually. I was living at my parents' place who would not want to accept, to understand that I was having a kind of a positive attitude towards Islam. I would go to the mosque and I would pray even on Fridays, not every time, but I would pray, and I would pray at home without being Muslim. Okay, I had learned the Fatiha, I had learned the Muslim prayer, and I would pray at home, but I was not a Muslim. Okay, and now it was Ramadan. My father even force-fed me. He put me down, he said, "You're going to eat." And I was 19, 20 years old, guys. And he told me, you're going to eat. I don't know what kind of fasting you're doing. Your fasting, our fasting is we don't eat eggs, we don't eat drink milk, you know. This is our fasting, our Orthodox fasting. I don't know what kind of fasting